Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to say a woman walk that, have you ever seen walking alone, her head held high, her eyes steady, and her steps deliberate? To some, she might appear lonely or lost, but those who truly understand see strength radiating from her solitude. A woman who walks alone is not defined by isolation, she is defined by her purpose. Our world often tells us that being alone is something to be avoided, something to fear. But I am here to tell you that walking alone is one of the greatest tests of character and one of the greatest opportunities for growth. The power of purpose in isolation. A woman who walks alone does so because she has chosen a path less traveled. She may not have the applause of the crowd or the validation of the masses, but she has something far greater purpose. Solitude becomes her classroom, and in that space she learns who she is and what she is called to do. Think of history's great women, those who dared to be different. They all faced seasons of solitude. They didn't fear being alone because they knew it was in those moments they gained clarity, strength, and direction. Breaking free from the need for approval. To walk alone is to break free from the need for approval. It takes boldness to step out of the crowd, to say, I will not live for likes, applause, or fleeting recognition. I will live for purpose. When a woman chooses authenticity over approval, she discovers something rare: respect for herself. She no longer seeks affirmation from others because her identity is rooted in something unshakable. The discipline of the solitary path. Let's be honest, walking alone is not easy. It demands discipline. It requires her to face her fears, doubts, and insecurities without distractions. But it is in the solitude that she grows stronger, wiser, and more focused. The discipline of walking alone refines her. It teaches her to persevere, to think critically, and to move forward with unwavering faith. Facing criticism and loneliness. Of course, the solitary path isn't without its challenges. People will question her choices. They may label her as cold, distant, or overly independent. But she understands that criticism is the price of leadership. Loneliness may knock on her door, but instead of letting it in, she uses it as a moment to reflect, pray, and renew her strength. She learns that God is her constant companion, and in Him she finds peace. The legacy of a woman who walks alone. What is the legacy of a woman who walks alone? She becomes a beacon of courage for others. She shows that it's possible to live with purpose, even if it means standing apart. Her life whispers a powerful message: you don't need a crowd to make an impact. You don't need approval to fulfill your calling. You need purpose, faith, and the courage to keep walking. Closing. So to every woman walking alone, remember this: your steps are not in vain. Every step you take in faith is building a legacy. Every step you take with purpose is making an impact. The world may not always understand your path, but that's because it's not for the world to understand, it's for you to fulfill. Walk boldly. Walk purposefully, and know that your journey is changing the world. Have you ever paused to watch a woman walking alone? There's something profound about her presence. She walks with quiet determination, her shoulders carrying the weight of decisions only she can make, her pace steady yet full of intention. Some might see her and wonder, why is she alone? Others might assume she's lost or in need of help. But the truth is, the woman who walks alone is often the one who has found herself. Her path isn't defined by loneliness, it's shaped by purpose. She has chosen to step away from the noise, the opinions, and the expectations of the crowd. The world around her can be a whirlwind of voices telling her who to be, how to act, or where to go, but she has silenced those voices to hear one that truly matters, the voice within. To walk alone requires courage. It takes strength to let go of the familiar, to choose a path where the footsteps ahead are sparse and the companions few. But it's in that solitude that she discovers her true self. She is no longer swayed by fleeting trends or shallow opinions. Instead, she learns to stand firm, rooted in values and vision. Her journey becomes a declaration: I am enough as I am, and I will follow the path meant for me, no matter how narrow it may seem. The journey of solitude isn't always easy. There are moments when doubt whispers in her ear, moments when the silence feels too loud, and the absence of company feels like a weight. But it is in those moments she learns the most about herself. She begins to understand that her worth isn't tied to the people who surround her, but to the purpose she carries within. Her walk is not aimless, it's intentional. She is not wandering, she's preparing. Every step she takes alone strengthens her for what lies ahead. She gains clarity about what truly matters and sheds the distractions that once slowed her down. Her solitude becomes a sacred space where she can dream, plan, and connect with a purpose greater than herself. This is the paradox of her journey. Though she walks alone, she is never truly alone. With each step, she grows closer to a power that guides her, comforts her, and fuels her. Her journey teaches her to trust not only herself, but also the unseen hand that steadies her when the road feels uncertain. She becomes a woman who is unafraid to walk her own path, not because she doesn't value others, but because she understands the value of her unique calling. And as she walks, her courage inspires others to find their own paths. A woman walking alone is not an image of isolation, it's a portrait of strength. Her journey is a testimony to the beauty of standing apart, the power of self-discovery, and the incredible things that happen when you dare to walk the road less traveled. There's something remarkable about what happens when a woman steps into isolation, not the kind forced upon her, but the kind she chooses when she feels the pull of purpose calling her away from the noise. Isolation has a way of stripping away the unnecessary, leaving behind the essence of who she truly is. In this space, distractions fade and clarity emerges. Purpose thrives in isolation. It's where she discovers not just what she's meant to do, but who she's meant to become. She begins to see herself through a lens unclouded by the opinions of others. In the quiet, she learns to hear the whispers of her calling, whispers that might have been drowned out by the clamor of everyday life. Think about the great women of history, the ones who stood tall in their convictions and changed the world with their actions. Almost all of them had seasons of solitude, moments when they stepped away from the crowd to refine their vision. It wasn't in the applause of the masses that they found their purpose, it was in the stillness, in the moments when they were alone with their thoughts, their dreams, and their Creator. Isolation has a way of sharpening her focus. When she is no longer trying to fit in or gain approval, she becomes free to explore the depths of her potential. It's not about cutting people off or rejecting community. It's about creating space for self-discovery. It's about prioritizing purpose over popularity. The world often measures success by how many people stand with you, but purpose doesn't need a crowd. It needs commitment. And that commitment often starts in the solitude, where she can ask herself the hard questions. What am I here for? What am I willing to sacrifice? What legacy do I want to leave behind? These questions aren't answered in the chaos, they're answered in the quiet. Isolation isn't just about finding purpose, it's about becoming prepared for it. In the silence, she grows stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The challenges she faces alone become the foundation of her strength. The doubts she overcomes in private equip her to stand firm in public. When a woman embraces isolation with purpose, she transforms it into something powerful. It's no longer a lonely space, it becomes sacred ground. And when she emerges, she doesn't just walk into the world, she walks into her destiny. The time spent alone becomes the fuel for the impact she's destined to make, and her life becomes a beacon of what's possible when you dare to embrace the power of purpose in isolation. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she must decide who she will listen to. Will she let the voices of the world dictate her steps, or will she have the courage to trust the voice within? Breaking free from the need for approval is one of the most liberating and challenging decisions a woman can make. It's a declaration that her value is not determined by the applause of others, but by the purpose she carries within her. The need for approval is like a chain, subtle but strong. It whispers, do what they expect, say what will make them like you. Don't stand out too much at first. It feels safe to comply, to go along with what's expected. But over time, that safety becomes a prison. She begins to lose sight of her unique calling, her individuality buried under the weight of trying to please everyone. But a woman destined for greatness cannot live her life according to the opinions of others. She understands that living for approval is a shallow foundation. Opinions are fickle here today, gone tomorrow. One moment the world praises you, the next it criticizes you. If she ties her identity to the shifting tides of approval, she will forever feel unsteady. To break free is to recognize that the crowd is not her compass. She doesn't need a standing ovation to walk in purpose. Her worth isn't tied to the number of people cheering her on, but to the depth of her character and the clarity of her vision. She stops chasing validation and starts building her life on something unshakable, her values, her principles, and her unwavering belief in her mission. This freedom doesn't come without a fight. The need for approval is deeply ingrained in many of us. It takes courage to walk away from it, to risk being misunderstood or even rejected. But what she gains in return is priceless authenticity. She becomes free to be herself, not a version of herself designed to fit someone else's expectations, but the woman she was always meant to be. When she no longer seeks approval, something extraordinary happens. She begins to walk with confidence. Her choices are no longer influenced by fear of rejection, but by a commitment to her purpose. She speaks her truth boldly, knowing that not everyone will agree, and that's okay. She is no longer swayed by every opinion because her sense of self comes from within, not from the world around her. This kind of woman becomes unstoppable. She understands that she doesn't need the crowd to validate her. She needs her conviction to guide her. And as she walks in this freedom, she inspires others to do the same. She shows them that true power comes not from being liked, but from being true to who you are. Breaking free from the need for approval is not just a choice, it's the beginning of living fully, boldly, and unapologetically. Walking the solitary path is not for the faint of heart. It requires discipline, a kind of discipline that goes deeper than routine or habit. It's the discipline to stay the course when no one else is watching, when the road feels long, and when the doubts creep in. It's the resolve to keep moving forward, even when the silence around you feels deafening. Discipline on the solitary path begins with focus. When a woman chooses to walk alone, she is making a statement that her purpose matters more than her comfort. She understands that distractions are plentiful and easy to fall into, but she chooses to set her eyes on the destination ahead. This focus becomes her anchor, keeping her steady even when the journey feels uncertain. But focus alone isn't enough. Walking the solitary path also requires resilience, the ability to face challenges head-on without breaking. It's in solitude that she learns to wrestle with her fears and doubts, to confront the voices that tell her she's not enough or that her dreams are too big. The discipline of solitude teaches her not to run from these struggles, but to face them, knowing they are shaping her into someone stronger and wiser. This path also demands a commitment to growth. When a woman walks alone, she realizes she has no one else to blame for her failures and no one else to lean on for her success. It's just her faith, and her determination. This is where discipline becomes transformative. She starts to embrace every setback as a lesson, every obstacle as an opportunity to grow. She commits herself to constant learning, refining her skills, sharpening her mind, and deepening her understanding of her purpose. The solitary path is also where self-control is forged. Without the influence of others to guide her decisions, she learns to master her emotions, to choose wisdom over impulse. She doesn't allow temporary frustrations to derail her long-term goals. Instead, she practices patience, knowing that every step she takes is part of a greater journey. And perhaps most importantly, discipline on this path teaches her to listen to herself, to her instincts, and to the still small voice that guides her. In a world that constantly demands her attention, she learns the value of tuning out the noise and tuning into her own inner clarity. She discovers that the answers she seeks are often found not in the crowd, but in the quiet moments of reflection and prayer. This discipline isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. Each step she takes in solitude builds her character. Each decision she makes without relying on others strengthens her independence. Over time, she becomes a woman who doesn't need external validation to feel worthy or accomplished. She walks confidently, not because the path is easy, but because she knows she has been prepared for it. Walking alone isn't about proving a point or rejecting others. It's about becoming the kind of person who can stand strong no matter the circumstances. The discipline she develops on this path becomes her greatest asset, equipping her to handle the challenges of life with grace and the opportunities of life with wisdom. It is through this discipline that she transforms her solitude into a season of growth and her path into a testimony of strength. Facing criticism and loneliness is an inevitable part of walking a path less traveled. When a woman dares to step away from the crowd, to live boldly and authentically, she becomes a target for opinions, judgments, and misunderstandings. The world often struggles to comprehend those who refuse to conform, and it responds with criticism. But criticism is not a sign of failure, it is often a sign of progress. To walk alone is to invite scrutiny. People may question her motives, misinterpret her actions, or project their fears onto her decisions. It can feel deeply personal, but she must remember criticism often says more about the critic than it does about her. Those who are uncomfortable with her courage will try to pull her back to the safety of mediocrity. Yet she understands that growth never happens in the comfort zone. Loneliness, too, can feel like a heavy burden. There will be days when the silence feels overwhelming, when the absence of companionship seems louder than her purpose. But in these moments, she learns one of life's most profound lessons: being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Loneliness is not a punishment, it is an invitation to draw closer to her own spirit and to her Creator. When she faces criticism, she does not retaliate or crumble under the weight of words. Instead, she uses it as fuel. Every harsh comment becomes a stepping stone. Every doubt from others becomes a reminder of her resolve. She knows that great leaders, innovators, and visionaries were all met with resistance before they were met with applause. Criticism is not a stop sign, it is proof that she is moving against the tide, carving out a path uniquely her own. And when loneliness whispers that she is forgotten or unseen, she counters it with truth. She reminds herself that even in solitude, she is surrounded by purpose. She realizes that her worth is not measured by the number of people around her, but by the depth of her character. Loneliness becomes her teacher, guiding her into deeper self-awareness and teaching her the value of her own company. Through these trials, she develops resilience. She learns to rise above the noise of criticism and the weight of isolation. She becomes unshakable, not because the journey is easy, but because she has chosen to anchor herself in something greater than external validation. Criticism and loneliness, though painful, are not her enemies, they are her trainers. They push her to refine her purpose, to solidify her identity, and to find strength she didn't know she possessed. As she continues forward, she realizes that every step taken in the face of criticism, every moment endured in solitude, is shaping her into a woman of courage, wisdom, and undeniable power. The legacy of a woman who walks alone is not written in the applause of the crowd or the fleeting recognition of popularity. It is etched in the hearts of those who witness her journey, in the lives she touches without even realizing it, and in the example she sets for generations to come. Her steps, though solitary, create ripples far beyond what she can see. A woman who walks alone leaves behind a legacy of courage. She shows others that it is possible to step away from the familiar, to face uncertainty with grace, and to choose purpose over comfort. Her life becomes a testament to the fact that true strength is not found in numbers, but in conviction. She teaches that walking alone is not a sign of weakness, it is evidence of a deep inner strength that refuses to compromise what matters most. Her legacy also carries the weight of authenticity. She didn't walk alone to prove a point or to distance herself from others. She walked alone because she refused to betray who she was created to be. She dared to live authentically, even when it meant standing apart. That authenticity inspires others to do the same, to break free from the fear of judgment and to embrace the truth of who they are. Her impact doesn't stop with her. The choices she made, the battles she fought in silence, and the resilience she built in solitude all paved the way for others. She becomes a beacon for those who feel unseen, unheard, or undervalued. Her life whispers to them, "You are enough, keep walking." The path is worth it. She becomes the proof they need to keep going. Though her journey might seem solitary, her legacy is anything but. The wisdom she gains, the growth she experiences, and the vision she pursues all extend far beyond her own life. She becomes a leader in the truest sense, not because she demands followers, but because her example inspires them. People may never walk beside her, but they follow the trail she leaves, one marked by bravery, purpose, and an unyielding faith in what is possible. Her solitude also speaks of trust. By walking alone, she placed her faith in something greater than herself. She trusted that her journey, though unconventional, had meaning. She believed that every step mattered, even when it seemed like no one noticed. That trust becomes a part of her legacy, a call to others to believe in the value of their own unique paths. Ultimately, the legacy of a woman who walks alone is not about the destination she reaches, but about the way she journeyed. Her story isn't one of perfection, but of perseverance. It's not about avoiding challenges, but embracing them. It's not about finding a crowd to validate her, but discovering And so the woman who walks alone leaves behind a legacy that cannot be erased. Her steps carve a path of courage, resilience, and unwavering purpose, a path others can follow, even if they never meet her face to face. She reminds us all that it's not the presence of a crowd, but the strength of conviction that defines a journey. Her life declares that solitude is not a limitation but a gift, that criticism is not an end but a beginning, and that the power of one person walking in purpose can ignite change far beyond what the eye can see. As she walks, she proves that the road less traveled is not lonely, it is sacred. And when her journey is complete, the footprints she leaves behind are not just marks in the sand, they are guiding lights for those who dare to walk their own paths with courage, faith, and unshakable resolve.